Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about another movie. And I decided I was going to pick one of the older, maybe older, maybe newer Disney romance movies. Obviously older. They don't do romance anymore. They're little idiots. But ultimately I wanted a romance one to fit in with Valentine's Day, since this is going to be coming out only 2 days after Valentine's Day, and Valentine's Day, at least to me, is purely about romance. Not that one, not my cat romance, different one. Yeah. You know what I mean. So I decided on Lady and the Tramp, which, fun fact, is one of my mom's absolute favorite Disney movies. I think it's definitely up there. I think Aristocats, so I think she just likes the animals. But I decided to rewatch it so that I'd be able to make this video, and without further ado, let's just get right into the review. You know how it goes. We're going to be starting with all the characters you're going to need to know for this. Okay, so the characters you'll need to know for this video that appear in Lady and the Tramp include, of course, Lady, played by Barbara Luddy, Tramp, played by Larry Roberts, Jock, played by Bill Thompson, Trusty, played by Bill Bockham. I know I'm saying played. Technically, his voice is an animated movie. I mean, yeah, still played could still work, but voice to be more accurate. Jim Deere, voiced by Lee Miller. Darlene's voiced by Peggy Lee. Aunt Sarah is voiced by Verna Felton. Peg is also voiced by Peggy Lee. Tony is voiced by George Garrett. C and Am are also voiced by Peggy Lee. And Joe is also voiced by Bill Thompson. And those are all the characters you should be needing to know for this video. So let's get right into the actual movie. So the movie basically opens up with it being Christmas time, and we have Jim Deere and Darlene opening their presents. Darlene's opening a present from him, and when she opens it, there's a tiny little puppy. I don't know how old Lady's supposed to be here. Didn't actually say. I'm assuming a few weeks. The tiny little puppy in the box. I remember back when people would put the dog in the box. Why did I put my cat in a box? Because technically my cat's a Christmas present. And then after this, we basically get Jim Deere trying to establish how things are gonna work in this household. The lady, but she's so needy. She keeps he keeps trying to get her to just stay in this room, stay in what I'm assuming was the kitchen. Stay in there, and you're gonna sleep in this basket. This is where you sleep at night. This is where you'll be. But she keeps trying to come back out, and after trying to get her to stay so many times, he finally is alright, well, I'll just let you stay for just the one night on my bed, at the foot of the bed. And then basically, hard cut to I guess, when she's 6 months old, when she's about 6 months old, which honestly, and she's still sleeping at the foot of the bed, so I guess that wasn't a one night thing. I guess Jim finally gave up on trying to establish how things are going to work in the house when it comes to this dog. But yeah, and then we basically get to see Lady's usual morning routine. She gets his slippers, or at least she would if it wasn't Sunday. And she goes out to collect the newspaper. Back when there'd just be some random boy just biking, throwing newspapers at the door. I don't think they still do that. They don't still do that now. I mean, I do see the newspapers on people's driveways, but I don't think that it's like how you see in the old movies. But ultimately we go a little farther into the movie, and she's getting her collar. She's old enough. Lady's old enough to have her collar, so she wants to go show this to her two best friends, who are also her neighbors, Jock and Trusty. Jock's a little Scottish Terrier, I think, and I don't know what Trusty is, but if you've seen the movie, then you'll probably know. I only know what Jock is because he has the thickest Scottish accent. No, speaking of accents, there's so many accents in this movie. Like, I'm surprised. Like, I'll get into it later though I'll get into what I'm thinking later though when we talk about the Siamese cats. Basically, she's like, look, I have a collar, and they're like, yay, what a great day. This is literally the best thing a human could ever give you. It's a collar. Which definitely makes me think that cats are usually left out, since most people do not put collars on their cats. So I guess cats get left out on that. What would the cats get, huh? But then we go, I guess, like, it's a couple days later. I'm not exactly sure. I guess it's like a couple days later. Like, we will be going a couple days later to somebody else, to Tramp, the other main character of this movie. I mean, the movie's named after two different ones. I have to say though, I feel very unfortunate for him if his real name is Tramp. That's a really unfortunate name, especially given the character development he will be going through. But basically, we get to see Tramp's morning routine too, which is very different than Lady's. You know, like, instead of just hanging around the house, like, fetching newspapers and making sure Jim gets his slippers on days that aren't Sunday, Tramp just drinks, will drink from puddles and then just go walk through the streets and decide, what restaurant am I gonna bark at the back door of today for food? That's basically his morning routine. And going back to Lady now, she's sad because Jim and Darling are acting differently. Jim, Dear, and Darling, they're acting differently. And so she talks to Jock and Trusty about it, saying how, like, how Darling had hit her, though it wasn't hard. It was just, obviously it was just, like, what anybody would normally do with their pets if they were misbehaving. Right, Romance? Yeah. Romance always trying to fight with the other ones to go. He'd be like, sorry about that. I accidentally pressed the stop recording button. Oh my gosh. Alright, anyway. And also Jim does something too. Jim, like, referred to her as that dog, which honestly should not. Which honestly is like, honestly, these just tell you how pampered Lady is, because I'm thinking about my own dog, Cedric, and I'm just like, I refer to him by not his name all the time. He doesn't seem sad about that. He's not about to go outside and just cower in the corner in the shade because he got referred to as that dog. But yeah, and then this is basically when Jock and Trusty are like, oh, we know what's going on here. And Lady's like, what? They're having a baby. What's a baby? Oh, it's a human, but a miniature model. Like, he said something like that. It's like, that's just funny. And this is when, I guess, and this is about when, while they're talking about what babies are, like, this is about when Tramp and Lady meet for the first time, because Tramp is walking by, and he hears this, and so he, of course, has to put his opinion into this random conversation he just walked by, and he's just like, oh, babies are horrible. Oh, remember the fresh meat you would get to have for dinner? Oh, well, now it's leftover baby food. Oh, remember how you got to sleep at the cozy fireplace? Well, now you're in the leaky doghouse. Like, that's basically what he was saying. And Lady was getting so scared, so of course Jock and Trusty being the ever protective best friends that they are, they're just like, you random dog, Tramp, whatever you are, get out of here. And so eventually, Tramp, a minute or two later, Tramp finally leaves, and the last thing he says is, just remember, Pigeon, when the baby comes in, the dog moves out. He says, and Pigeon obviously is what he calls her for, like, all of the movie, I think. Like, I can't think of when he ever actually called her Lady. Like, he always calls her Pigeon, which honestly, I guess it's supposed to be like a cute pet name, but thinking of actual pigeons, it doesn't feel very cute, honestly, considering the usual consensus about pigeons. But this basically brings us into the next section of the movie. So moving into the days leading up to the baby, we basically get little clips of like the baby shower and the night the baby actually arrives. And oh my god, I just gotta say, like, Jim Deere's excitement, just like he's just like running on that. It's a boy, it's a boy. He's like he even goes up to the doctor to literally help deliver the child. He's like, oh doctor, it's a boy. The doctor probably just standing there thinking, yeah, dude, I was literally there for it. Like, I was the doctor to help you guys deliver. It's like, oh, doctor, it's a boy. Like Ginger's just like so excited. And also, I'm gonna say this now. I might say this again in the video, but the baby looks so much like Michael Darling from Peter Pan. Like, I feel like they reused, I think they reused the character model for this baby, like, for an older version of this baby, because he and Michael Darling look so similar. Like, I swear the only difference is that this baby, who is never actually mentioned by name, actually, it's just the baby, which honestly is like, you're treating the baby worse than a dog. At least you guys call the dog by the name. But basically what I'm trying to say is that, like, I think they used the character model. Like, the only difference is that this baby has like a blonder hair than Michael Darling does. But anyways, basically I guess Jim Deere and Darling have to go on a trip, so of course Aunt Sarah's coming to stay for a while to watch over the baby, and I guess technically supposed to watch over Lady too. But so Aunt Sarah's here, Jim Deere and Darlene are not, and immediately we see how different Aunt Sarah is than Jim and Darlene. Also, speaking of Jim and Darlene, like, it's funny that that's their names, because they lost their names in the movie, because basically it's supposed to be like what the dogs think their names are, because they always refer to each other as Jim Deere or oh Darlene, like that's what Lady thinks their names are. So that's actually kind of funny. But I will say, it's at the same time though, it's like, really, they never call each other just Jim or whatever Darlene's real name is. Maybe they do it when she's not around. I don't know. But basically, Aunt Sarah's very different, as I said. Whereas Jim Deere and Darlene will let Lady sit by the baby and while it's sleeping in his crib or whatever, Aunt Sarah's like, you get out. Like, she's very rude. She's just like, dog, get out. I guess she's really not a dog person. And actually, this is true. She's not a dog person. Because while Lady's downstairs, guess who shows up? It's the Siamese cats, C and M. And oh my gosh, people have such an issue with these two cats that it's actually annoying. And, like, especially annoying, because when I rewatched it, I was like, oh, yes, the cats. Granted, I find the cats annoying, but not for the reasons other people find annoying. I mean, I find them iconic. Like, they're really... Like, it's actually good that they're annoying to me in the way that they are, because they're supposed to be as secondary villains. So to me, I'm just like, stop trying to eat the fish, stop clawing the curtains, stop blaming everything on Lady. Like... And then everybody's like, oh, it's cats that are Asian or whatever. Oh, so mean. Like, I mean, yeah, sure, it's the 55, they could have portrayed it a little better, but ultimately, it's whatever, guys. They are animated cats. Calm down. If any of you guys watching this are one of those people who complain about two little animated cats being racist or whatever the fuck, then, like, calm down. It's actually kind of hypocritical, because not hypocritical, but like, I don't know what word works best with this, but people will complain about the cats, but they're not going to complain about the giant amount, like just a huge amount of accents in this movie. Like, what? If you'll give me a minute. Tramps. Like, I will give you an example. There is a scene where they're. Alright, there is a scene where. There's a scene where they are talking about all Tramp's ex-girlfriends. And and they're like, yeah, there was Trixie and Lulu and Fifi, and then this tiny little chihuahua with a Spanish accent is like, "Hey, Rosita, Chiquita, Juanita, Chihuahua, I think." Like, that's basically what's that. That's probably a bad imitation of the accent. But, like, there's, like, little moments that with, like, a bunch of different accents. Like, Spanish accents, Italian accents. There's even a part where in the spaghetti scene, Tony's muttering to Tramp, "Hey, maybe keep this girl, actually. I should keep one for once." And Lady's like, "What is he talking about?" And Tramp's just like, "Oh, Tony, he doesn't speak English well." Like, you guys will complain about the cats, but not any of that stuff. It kind of makes you guys look stupid. I'm not gonna lie, look stupid in my eyes. Like, if you're gonna complain about the cats, why not complain about the other things in the movie? Like, he's Italian. He doesn't speak English well. He's Italian. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I totally don't just take out girls and then ditch them the next day. Like, we're not gonna complain about that with Tony or when it comes to. When it comes to Rosita, Chiquita, Juanita, Chihuahua, whatever the fuck. I know I just said two phones it is, but I'm not even gonna bother censoring myself at this point. It's like with my Peter Pan review, and I see no issue with how the Indians are, because to me, in that the Indians aren't real Native Americans. They're just the Neverland. They're native to Neverland, which. They could be anywhere they want to be in Neverland, because that's a fictional place. And to me, they're just Siamese cats. Like, they're cats. It'd be one thing if these are actually Asian people or something, but these are cats. Nobody, no little, I don't, what are you guys thinking? Like, little kids are gonna be sitting there like, "Oh, these cats, they're like, oh, this is how Asians are. Yeah, these cats. But, this is totally how Asians are in real life." No. And I've already ranted about this long enough, so I'm just gonna move on. But ultimately, like I said, C and Am cause total destruction downstairs, and when Aunt Sarah finally comes, C and Am make it seem like Lady did all that stuff. So this leads to Aunt Sarah bringing Lady to, I guess, the pet store to get a muzzle. Because she thinks Lady's a dangerous dog, which honestly, I mean, this tiny little thing, it is adorable. This tiny little dog, Lady, is adorable. Like, how could you think she's attacking your evil Siamese cat? Speaking of Siamese, actually, Romance, my cat, is actually an albino Siamese. He's kind of evil, too. Maybe it's true! No, seriously, I'm not kidding. He is kind of evil. He will attack the other cats, but the only one he really tries to ever be nice to is, Bella, I think. But, even then, maybe there's some truth in the movie with the Siamese cats, about the Siamese cats specifically kind of being jerks. I mean, mine's a jerk. He's albino, but he's still a Siamese. But anyways, this leads us, like I said, the pet store. This leads us to the pet store, and, Lady freaks out when the guy that working at the pet store tries to put the muzzle on her. She ends up running away. To which she then gets cornered, ultimately gets cornered in an alleyway by some big dogs. And this is when Tramp comes and fights off the dogs, saves the day. And then he's like, "Oh my gosh, you have a muzzle!" And this leads us into the next section of the film. Alright, so now that Tramp's like, "Hey, you got a muzzle, we need to somehow get this off," he's like, I have an idea. So, Lady and Tramp, they go to the zoo, and there's a no dogs allowed sign. So after Tramp does a little, causes some little shenanigans so that they can sneak in, they're looking through all the animals, like, oh, who should we use? Oh no, the apes. They're too closely related to humans. They don't understand our dog language. They're too closely related to humans. Which actually, at first, I thought the movie was about to say something very different, considering they're apes. But I was like, but then it was just like, oh yeah, too closely related to humans to understand a dog's language. I was like, okay, that actually makes total sense. So I was about to say, like, this could be another example of like something that people could complain about it. No, that makes total sense. And then they're about to use the alligator there to do it, but the alligator's about to chomp lady's head off by accident. So ultimately, they're like, oh, a beaver. So after acting like the whole like muzzle thing is like something the beaver could use to drag logs to the river because it really wants to do that, and the beaver's like so busy on doing that he doesn't even want to bother helping them for like 2 seconds. Like Tramp says like, oh yeah, all you gotta do is just bite it off, pal. I bite hard, and now the beaver gets the muzzle to use, and actually miraculously somehow works. So ultimately, Lady and Tramp leave the zoo, and that's that for the muzzle. But she doesn't go home. Lady isn't going home just yet. She isn't going home just yet because that evening, Tramp's like, I should take her out to dinner. Oh, Tramp. I really feel it's also really, like I said, it's really unfortunate that this seems to be his real name, especially after character development. It does eventually occur, and so basically he's like, I'll bring her to Tony's, the Italian restaurant. And at Tony's, at first they were just at first Joe, like, I guess the head cook, like owner is like Tony. I guess he's like the head cook. Joe is, and he's about to just give them bones, and then like Tony's like, no, they're getting spaghetti, and he's like, well, how you know? Oh, they're talking to me. What? Oh, dogs can't talk. Oh, they're talking to me. Like, that's basically literally a back and forth. These two, like, how have you guys worked out as coworkers? How have you guys worked out as coworkers? I don't know how. Like, that's literally how they're talking. Okay, and again, like, there's so many accents in this movie. There's the dog lady that has the Spanish accent. There's these guys with the Italian accents. There's a cajillion German accents. There's like the Scottish accent that Jock has. Like, very this is a very diverse population as far as accents go. I mean, some of the characters I'm referring to are dogs, some are humans. So I can't just strictly say humans or dogs. So I'm just gonna say population. But basically, this is when we get our iconic spaghetti scene. It's kind of romantic. They're eating spaghetti. Is that even healthy for dogs? Hold on a sec. Can dogs eat spaghetti? Yes, dogs can eat plain, thoroughly cooked spaghetti in small moderation, but should not be a regular part of the diet. Okay, well, hence why, I guess that's why Tony was like, this is gonna be just for this special night, because he has a girlfriend. Actually, maybe keep this one, but he like that. And I already talked about that, though, in my rant about how people are being dumb about the cat thing, but, like, you can't just judge something because it was a product of time. Like, that would have just been normal for the 50s, and that's okay, because that was the 50s. And the point is that people are different now, for the most part. I mean, you still got, like, the two alts, like, right or left, like, being crazy, but ultimately, like, most people are normal, and even if they were to watch, like, an older movie that portrayed racist things, they ultimately wouldn't think much of it. It would, So, I don't know, I just had to talk about that again, because it really does bother me when people try to put something where really, when it really comes down to it, isn't, like, it's not affecting anybody. And if Lady and the Tramp, this one little scene, Like, the one scene these cats show up in Lady Tramp is actually bothering you, like, that's more on you and not the movie. It'd be one thing. It'd be one thing if the cats showed up for more than that one scene, but it's just the one scene, man. Like, we really do never see the cats again, even though we do see Aunt Sarah again. Alright, whatever. So yeah, they have Tony's, and after dinner, and also of course it's Bella Notte, but I'm not talking about the songs right now. You know that if the movie is a musical, sort of, then or has any songs at all really, like I will talk about them more at the end of the video. So that's why I'm skipping over music for now. And they have a good night, and then they basically fall asleep at the top of a hill. And then the next morning when they wake up, Tramp's trying to get Lady to agree to be, I guess, a runaway forever, but she just misses Jim, Dear, and Darling and wants to go back to them even though they're not even home yet. So you might as well just stay a runaway for another day or two. But this kind of leads us into basically this section where they're at, where he's finally taking her home. Then they're passing through a farm. Like, he's finally like, oh, okay, I'll take her home. I can't get her to want to live the life of a runaway dog. I'll take her home, you know. And they're passing by this farm, and he's like, let's chase chickens. And so basically, while she's just sitting there so confused and bewildered, like, what is going on? He's chasing chickens. And then I guess the farmer or whatever comes out just with a shotgun. And that's their cue to run, so they're running, and Lady can't keep up with Tramp. So what happens? The pet shelter picks her up. And how did it pick her up? Well, this whole time, regulations about licensed or unlicensed dogs have been getting stricter in town. And we saw this earlier, like in the movie, when Tramp freed 2 dogs, which ultimately was only temporary because we see these dogs in the shelter later. But basically, like, what am I trying to say? I can't. Basically, yeah, she's in the shelter, and this leads us to the next section of the movie where Lady will be learning a bit more about Tramp than she thought at first. Alright, so in this scene where she's now at the pound, only temporarily though, since she has her collar. She does have her collar with its license, so this is only temporary for her. She basically learns, I guess, the truth, question mark, about Tramp, even though she seems to, at least at first, have figured he was probably no good anyway. Because it's because basically, basically she learns, well, he is, as his name suggests, a tramp. Like I said, there's Fifi, there's Trixie, there's Lulu, there's Rosita, Chiquita, Juanita, Joaba, whatever her name was. I forget the order. I forget the order of the middle too. But that was a long name. I mean, basically, Lady Ultimate is like, oh. But what's important though is that, what I say earlier, my cat's evil. I know that was romance attacking somebody. But yeah, I mean, I didn't name him after a villain, so I guess I did rightly name him so. But basically, there is a little bit near the end of the scene that's important, besides the fact that we literally see a dog being led to the background to be put down, shall I say. Yeah, that's basically the term. Like, I you know what, talking about that, like, I've never felt emotion there. I was kind of just like, oh, it's a dog. And I actually have a friend from middle school. Like, I was a friend with this girl in middle school. She was like, she said she always cries in that scene because, like, she's sad about the dog. And I'm like, and I'm just sitting there, like, watching. I'll be watching, even just now when I rewatched the movie for this video, I was kind of just like, oh, It's a dog. They're putting it down. Well, you know what? That happens a lot. And is it good? No. But am I gonna be sad about this random animated dog? Not really. No. But the one thing I was gonna mention though that happened, that's brought up near the end of this video, is that like Peg obviously being the one that basically started the whole, yeah, you know, he is a tramp and every girl loves him and stuff, like that whole thing. Like, she and the other dogs that were in the pound, like, kind of just thinking, like, oh, but you know, one day he's gonna meet a different kind of girl, like a house dog that's pampered and stuff, and oh, and then he's gonna finally, like, have true love, which just seems bad or whatever. Like, these pound dogs see it as bad because, as Peg and them say, like, I think pretty sure it was Peg specifically, it was like, and then he's finally, and then this girl dog's gonna finally get him caught and he's gonna die. That's basically what they said. Since, like, basically at this point, the shelter, like, the second they get Tramp, all they just want to put him down immediately, which honestly, I mean, fair. You know what? Fair. He does attack a lot of men that work at the shelter a lot, and like he's always freeing the other dogs. And allegedly, he attacks the baby at the end. So you know what? Fair. I can see why the humans thought Tramp was a dangerous dog. I could totally see that. So I mean, fair, but still, like, poor Tramp. But ultimately, like. And what it was important about, like, this bit where they're just like, yeah, you know, the day that Tramp meets a different kind of girl, like, the bit, like, literally when the dog's like, one like lady, it's like, that already happened. But ultimately, you know, finally the guy that works at the guy that worked at the pound that originally put her in the kennel there, comes back and is like, all right, we found your home, let's bring you home. So now, being at home, since Aunt Sarah's still in charge, Aunt Sarah's the real villain here. Ignored the Siamese cats, ignored the pet shelter, ignored it. Aunt Sarah started all of this. Aunt Sarah's the reason all of this happened. If you just let Lady hang out with the baby, especially considering Lady wouldn't have actually hurt the baby, then your cats wouldn't have caused things. Your cats wouldn't have had the chance to cause things to happen that then led to everything else happening. Like, Aunt Sarah's the real villain here, okay? And I don't really like Aunt Sarah. Oh my gosh, she's kind of annoying. Because she has started all this, it's like, oh my gosh, just go find a dead rat. Like, that's later in the movie, I'm getting ahead of myself, but basically, Lady is chained to the doghouse, I guess, which honestly is normal. That's normal to make sure they don't run away or whatever, but. Or apparently, in Aunt Sarah's case, I think she thinks, oh no, the dogs are gonna actually come in the house. This house dog is gonna come in the house. Like, my gosh, this lady's so a cat lady. Oh my gosh. But, basically, Jock and Trusty come by. They're like, oh, yeah, I'll talk to her, cheer her up. And she's like, leave me alone. And this is when Tramp comes. Oh, no. This is when Tramp comes. And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I thought you were behind me. Here's a bone for, as an apology gift or something. I don't know. But, of course, Lady, like, knowing everything now, like, she doesn't like him anymore. She's just like, And so is Jock and Trusty are like that too, because they never liked him. And so ultimately, like, Tramp still is still trying to talk, and eventually, like, Jock and Trusty, like, Jock is so feisty. Jock's the more feisty one. He'll just be getting up at Tramp's face, like, "God damn you, doctor, get out of here, get out of here." I'm not even doing a Scottish accent, but I'm not even gonna bother. I'm just doing a weird voice, but basically the point is, like, he's the more feisty one between him and Trusty, but I think Trusty's supposed to be really old. Like, Trusty doesn't have his, like, sense of smell anymore. He used to be like a hunting dog or whatever. Not hunting dog to hunt animals, like tracker. He used to be like a tracking dog, like one of those, like, police dogs or whatever. But basically, like, Lady's ultimately like, Doc, Trusty, you can go. I can handle this myself. And so she starts yelling at Tramp about about Trixie and Lulu and Fifi and Rosita Chiquita Juanita Chihuahua or whatever her name was. The last one's name. I always forget the last one. But although that one is technically allegedly because Rose's cousin, her cousin in the pound was like, maybe, I don't know. like that's basically that's literally how he sounds. That's literally how he sounds. But ultimately Tramp leaves and he's leaving, and this leads us into the next part of the movie, basically the climax, I guess you could say climax. So basically in this climax, Lady, literally Tramp has just left, and Lady kind of makes a corner around her doghouse to come face to face with a rat. Now, this actually isn't the first time the rat showed up. The rat showed up in the beginning of the movie, which was basically foreshadowing to how this climax is gonna go. But back in the beginning of the movie, Lady wasn't chained to a doghouse, so she was able to chase the rat away. But because she's stuck at the doghouse, she can't chase the rat as the rat runs around her into the house. And while she's just barking, Aunt Sarah's obviously opened the bedroom window like, shut up, you dog. Can't you tell I'm a cat person? I don't like how much noise you guys make. How needy you are and how you're just barking at the house even though there's literally a dangerous rat that's literally in my eye view right now going for the baby. For some reason I guess it knows the baby's there. I don't know. Aunt Sarah's so annoying. My gosh, Aunt Sarah's the real villain here. Okay, forget the cat. Forget the cats. Forget like any mean dogs. Forget like the pet shelter. Like although I do have my beef with the pet shelter in a minute. Like basically, Aunt Sarah's the real villain here, and I guess a lot of us should know that. Like I feel like a lot of us already know that she's technically the most main villain anything will get. Like, forget the rat, too. The rat's a villain, too. Forget the rat. Aunt Sarah's the real villain here. That rat would have been chased away if she hadn't chained Lady to the doghouse. But, basically, like, Tramp is still in earshot of all this, so he comes back. He's like, what's going on? There's a rat going in the baby's room. How do I get in? Go through the little door in the door. Like the little doggy door that's in the door. Like, I don't remember how that is said, but when you think about it, it's like, it's a door and a door. And so Tramp's going in the house. So Tramp's in the house now. He's going upstairs. And he goes into the baby's room, and he finds the rat, and there's basically a long fight with the rat. Meanwhile, Lady has finally broken free of the chain. Like, she's, like, ripped the chain off in the doghouse, and she's running in, too. And she gets in there while Tramp and the rat are still fighting, and Tramp ultimately, in his fight, knocks over the crib, causing the baby to wake up and start crying, and Lady hurries over to make sure the baby isn't injured or anything. And ultimately, Tramp corners the rat behind an armchair and underneath a curtain, and kills it. Like, thank God it's off screen, because even for 1955, I feel like a dog chomping on a rat like that in a kids movie, like, yeah, no, we don't need to see the rat's body. We don't need to see that. But ultimately, obviously, Aunt Sarah's awake now, and she's coming in, and obviously to her, since the rat is conveniently underneath a curtain behind an armchair, so no one can see it unless the dogs were to point it out, like, to her, it looks like some random stray walked in with Lady and attacked the baby. So, of course, she trapped him in the closet while getting Lady down to the garage. And then she goes to call the pet shelter because there was a wild animal in my house that just attacked the baby. And obviously, Jock and Trusty are outside hearing about this because obviously they're neighbors to Lady, and I highly doubt, being the best friends that they are, that they really went too far away, that they really went far away. They probably stuck around to make sure that Lady really could handle herself, which honestly, even though Tramp is really no danger to Lady at all, like, I mean, what great best friends. What great guys. But basically they're like, attack a baby. Well, I never thought Tramp would do something that bad. I mean, I know we already were hating on him for this whole movie, but I didn't think he'd stoop that low. But obviously, this is right. Jim Deere and Darlene are coming home, and obviously, like the pet shelter guy already having Tramp in his little like carriage, or whatever. It's like, oh yeah, attack the baby, and it's like, our baby. But that ultimately, like, obviously, now that Jim and Deer and Darlene are home, they're gonna be listening to Lady now, and so they let Lady out, and Lady is able to show them the rat, and that's when the humans, the adults, piece it all together, and they're like, oh my gosh, oh, it was a rat. The dog was there saving the baby from a rat. Which is there like an epidemic of like rats trying to attack babies? I mean I'm not saying it sounds unrealistic, but like was it common for babies to generally be in danger of a rat sneaking into the house? Like is that was that common in the 50s or even in any other time period before, not before the 50s, but after the 50s? Like like 55 and after, is that like 1955 and after, is that like a common thing? But since we now know it's a rat, that's the reason Jock and Trusty are hearing this outside still, and they're like, oh no, if it was a rat, then it wasn't Tramp, and now they're bringing Tramp to the shelter, and he's gonna die, or whatever, because they're gonna put him down. Poor guy. We could just, like, save the baby and stuff, like, it is exactly what Winkle Peg was talking about earlier, where she was like, and one day he's gonna meet a girl that's gonna care about so much that the shelter's gonna capture him and kill him. Like, and I was like, I gotta say that, like, actually, like, that was, wow. I can't even say my sentence. Alright, but basically, and this is when Trusty really gets his moment, because throughout this movie, he has struggled with his sense of smell. In his old age, I guess, he has lost his sense of smell. But now is his time to, I guess, get it back, because he's able to track down the the animal shelter carriage that Tramp's in, and by barking at the horses, and barking at the horses with Jock, he causes it to fall over, and at this point, Lady's hurrying over in a car with her owners, who I guess go save the dog that saved the baby. Like, how would she talk to him in the beginning in the car? Like, I mean, I guess they know Lady well, but, like, could you... Man, these guys are doing so much for the dog. No wonder she's so pampered. I mean, obviously it's a good thing they're saving Tramp and all, but this is a lot for, like, one dog. Like, they just do for, like, one dog. But, basically, Tramp's saved. Tramp's good, but, for some reason, the movie decided to act like Trusty died or something for a second. He didn't actually die, but, like, they, like, showed the shot of him, like, his paw, like, stuck under the wheel, and he's, like, laying there, eyes closed, and Jock's looking all sad, Jock's crying, and, like, that was actually, like, considering the very next scene, we see that literally all that happened was he broke his paw. Like, the movie acts like bro just died that was actually too intense, considering because what you're doing is basically most viewers are gonna be like, oh my gosh, Jock, like, not Jock, but like, no, they're gonna be like, oh my gosh, Trusty died, he's dead, look. But no, he just broke his paw, which, while isn't good, is 1,000 times better than dying while saving Tramp. So I feel like they made that a little too dramatic, intense, or whatever. Like, when ultimately all that happened was a broken paw. But basically, this leads us into the finale, very last scene of the movie. So it's Christmas again, and something's different. For starters, Tramp's now part of the family. He has a collar with license and everything. He's a family man, the family dog, whatever, now. And something else. Lady and Tramp have children. They have 3 daughters that look just like Lady and 1 son that looks just like Tramp. And I guess that's just how movies will differentiate when the parents are different dog breeds or whatever. It's like, yeah, this one will look like that one will look like that. Like, the girls will all look like the model. It feels like Sims 4 now. Like, if you know my channel, then you know, like, I have some Sims 4 series. The genetics with these kids feel like Sims 4 now that I think about it. But basically, Trusty and Jack come over. You know, it's just a one big Christmas in the household, whatever, you know, in Lady and Tramp's household. You know, Jim and Darlene and the baby's like, I guess, a year old now, I guess, or almost a year old. I don't know. How old's the baby supposed to be? I don't know. I mean, I do know at this point he definitely looks like Michael. Like, this baby looks so much like Michael Darling from Peter Pan, just with blonder hair. Like, they definitely used the same, like, like, like character structure, whatever phrase I used earlier in the video. I don't know why it's slipping my mind now, but basically it's Christmas, you know, they're all chilling, you know, it's your usual, like, Disney animated movie ending where all the characters are hanging out with each other. You get to see how their life is now, and then zoom out the way that the movie zoomed in on the house in the beginning. And this leads me into the songs before my final thoughts. Okay, so basically, like, I guess the main songs, question mark, that are basically in this movie include Bella Notte, which obviously is the song that plays over the spaghetti scene. Such a cute scene. Oh my gosh, so cute. And then there's the He's a Tramp song, which is basically Peg's song, where she talks about how Tramp's had a lot of ex-girlfriends. He's really just a tramp, basically. Breaking their hearts the next day or whatever, and this, you know, a lady learns the truth or whatever. Like, that's like a fun little number. Do I have to say I disagree with Peg when she says he's better off as a tramp forever? Because, I mean, as we see at the end of the movie, like, he's doing a lot better. Then we have We Are Siamese, and, like, again, they're cats. Like, I think it's a fun song, even if I'm annoyed that they're destroying the house. Oh, it's a fun little song, you know. We are Siamese, if you please. Like, they're literally cats, though, so, like, it's like, yeah, they're correct. They're Siamese cats. Congratulations, I know what cat breed you are. Kitties, you know? And then there's, basically after that, there's Lallaloo, which is basically like a lullaby that Darlene sings to the baby a lot. And it's cute. It definitely, you know, it's just a lullaby, but it's nice. And then Peace on Earth is basically like one of those like songs that appear in older Disney movies to make you think how like Christian old Disney kind of is. Like, I know I guess it plays at the very beginning, sort of like in the very beginning during that Christmas bit and stuff, when we're like zooming in towards the house in the beginning of the movie and stuff. And it just, I don't know, it just feels very Christian to me. And as a lot of the older movies are. And obviously I'm not saying that as a bad thing, I'm just saying it's interesting how much, it's interesting seeing that, considering how much Disney has changed now, because obviously, like, casting out all romance is not the only thing that they have changed with, like, you know, like, if you watch their older movies, there are little bits with, like, a Christian scene, like Snow White's praying to God, there's like, you know, there's even Penny in, like, The Rescuers, who is praying to God, you know, there is a little definitely Christian-coded moments, but now it's basically just, like, fire power, water power, Elsa can make ice, like, that kind of thing, and, that's technically, as I think Christians would call it, like, witchcraft, and, like, I'm just going on this for so long because I do find it interesting to think about now that it's in my mind, because I do hear, like, the song Peace on Earth, and it makes me think of Christianity. I don't know if this was, like, a song that was written for the movie, or if it's, a literal song that maybe is sung in the church choir in real life. I don't know. It sounds like something that would be, I think. And as a person who's not religious myself, though, my mom is a Catholic, Roman Catholic, I believe, you know, I think she would know, like, if it has those vibes or not. But that's the songs bit. That's pretty much all the songs, like, at least the main songs. So I'll go into my final thoughts now. Alright, well, they don't call it a Disney classic for nothing, so I will be giving Lady and the Tramp a solid score of. I'll give it a 9 out of 10 because my only real complaints about the movie, when it really comes out, and my only complaints about the movie was like Aunt Sarah, or even like, just Aunt Sarah and like maybe her cats, but not for the reason everybody else doesn't like seeing Am. I've already made it clear I don't view the way the cats are portrayed as racist since they're cats. And like Aunt Sarah's the reason why anything bad happened in this movie. Let's be honest. They're gonna rage war with Aunt Sarah. I don't care if she actually felt bad after the whole rat reveal. And she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Jim, dear darling. I'm so sorry." Which honestly, it's like, at that point, it's like, why is everyone calling Jim Dean? Okay, whatever. Basically, yeah, it's a fun movie, I have to say. Actually, I watched this movie so many times when I was little. Like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, this is like one of my mom's favorites, and like, but this is the first time where I really felt like I was connecting with like the stakes of the story, as far as like Tramp goes, because I remember because if you remember, like I was mentioning a lot, like just now, like about how like one day how Peg and them are like, one day he's gonna meet a different kind of girl, and then he's probably gonna die because of it or something. Like, and that's basically the short term version of what they were saying. It's like, oh no, not Tramp. He's like, oh, he's just gonna meet a different girl. It's gonna change his life. Then he's gonna die for it. But he obviously didn't because this is a Disney movie. But could you imagine if he actually did? Oh my god! Now I need a version of Lady Tramp where she does die at the end. Gosh, that would be so sad. It's so emotional, and it would be awesome. I know how that sounds, but I feel like I don't really feel sad emotions a lot with movies. Like I hardly ever feel that emotion in the movie. And also I kind of like darker stories anyway. So there's that. But ultimately, what that's basically my thoughts on Lady and the Tramp. If you like this video, then make sure to like and subscribe. Comment, what are your feelings about the movie? But make sure to check out my social links in my channel bio. Got my Instagram and Discord. And when I reach 50 subscribers, I do plan on opening a little Discord server. If anyone has Discord and be interested in that, so make sure to look out for that when I reach 50 subs. And I will see you guys in another video. Bye bye now.